Behind your neck, right at the base of your skull, there's a point that ancient cultures believed was more than just part of your anatomy. To them, it was a portal, a hidden switch between body, mind, and spirit. The Egyptians whispered about it as forbidden knowledge. The Taoists called it the Palace of Mind. And in Chinese medicine, it's known as the Feng Fu Point or GV16. Today, we're going to uncover why this point has been called a gateway to energy, clarity, and even higher states of consciousness. And we're not going to wait until the end. I'll show you the technique right now, then we'll explore why this small point carries such legendary significance. So here it is, the practical method. All you need is a single ice cube. Yes, ice. If you take that ice cube and place it right on the small depression at the base of your skull, something remarkable happens. At first, the cold bites into your skin almost uncomfortably. But if you hold it there, within a minute, the sensation shifts. A deep warmth starts to spread through your head and neck, as if your body is turning on a hidden circuit. This isn't just about nerves reacting to cold. It's a reset button, one that floods your brain with blood endorphins, and if the ancients are to be believed, access to something beyond ordinary energy. We'll return to this technique later in detail. For now, keep in mind, this is no ordinary wellness hack. This was guarded knowledge, and the question is, why? To understand, we need to step back thousands of years. Imagine standing in the temple halls of ancient Egypt, torches flickering against carved walls. Priests in white robes walk silently past columns etched with hieroglyphs. Somewhere in those chambers, knowledge was stored that the average person was never meant to access. Among those secrets was the idea that the body is not just flesh and bone, but a coded map. Every point, every channel, had a symbolic meaning, and one point, just below the skull, was said to thin the veil between the physical body and the subtle body, the world of energy. They attributed this secret to Thoth, the god of wisdom, writing, and hidden knowledge. Thoth wasn't just a scribe. He was seen as the architect of reality itself. He carried the Emerald Tablet, the legendary text that declared, "As above, so below." And according to mystery schools, he left behind methods to access the deeper blueprint of creation itself. Among them was the activation of the Feng Fu Point. Now, if this all sounds too mystical, let's ground it in what modern science knows. Anatomically, this point sits right where the spinal cord enters the skull. It's the crossroads between your brain and the rest of your body. Stimulating it with cold triggers a surge of blood flow to the brainstem and releases endorphins, the natural chemicals that make you feel euphoric, calm, and focused. That's the scientific description, but the ancients weren't wrong either. They described energy, flows, meridians, and vital forces like chi or prana, concepts that modern researchers are only now beginning to validate through bioelectric studies. When they said this point was a portal, they may have been describing exactly what we now see, a place where stimulation here doesn't just affect one muscle or one organ, it cascades through the entire system. So when you apply ice to this spot, you're not just numbing your skin, you're lighting up the control center of your body. And if you bring intention and awareness to it, as the ancients insisted, you're also opening yourself to subtler currents of energy. But here's where it gets more fascinating. This point wasn't just about health, it was about awakening. Ancient Taoist texts called it the Palace of Wind. Why wind? Because in their symbolic language, wind wasn't just air. Wind represented inspiration, breath, unseen currents of thought, even divine communication. Think about it. How many times have you had an idea that seemed to come out of nowhere? A sudden flash of inspiration, a gut feeling, a creative insight. The Taoists would say those weren't random. They were whispers caught by your palace of wind, carried into your mind by currents of subtle energy. To them, the Feng Fu point wasn't just biological. It was a receiver and antenna that could tune into higher frequencies of creativity and wisdom. And by consciously activating it, you could refine your ability to receive these signals. This is why the practice was considered sacred. It wasn't just about healing headaches or boosting energy. It was about connecting to what they called the breath of the divine. Now, let's come back to the technique for a moment. Imagine you're preparing to try this. The ancients insisted on intention, not just slapping ice on your neck, but creating a ritual out of it. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly as if each inhale draws calm and each exhale releases tension. Locate the small hollow just below your skull. Place the ice cube there. Yes, it will sting at first, but that sting is part of the initiation. Your body resists, your mind protests, but if you hold steady, the shift comes. The cold gives way to warmth, blood rushes to your brain, endorphins flow, a sense of clarity arises. That warmth spreading from the back of your neck is not just physical, it's symbolic. It's energy, and blocked, flowing into channels that may have been stagnant for years. And here's where the journey begins. Because, according to ancient traditions, once that gate opens, the energy doesn't stop at your head. It begins to descend. The first major center it flows into is your throat. In yogic traditions, this is the Vishuddha chakra, the center of communication, creativity, and truth. Think for a moment about how many times you've swallowed your words. How many times you wanted to say something but didn't, out of fear of judgment, conflict, or rejection. Over time, those unspoken words pile up, creating blockages. That's why people feel a lump in their throat when they're stressed. It's not just emotion, it's energy stuck in the communication center. When the energy released from the thankful point floods into this chakra, it dissolves those blockages. Suddenly, people report feeling freer to speak, to sing, to write, to express themselves honestly. The voice that had been caged begins to flow. And it's not just about words. Creativity itself is a form of voice. Ideas, art, music, they all rise from a clear and open throat center. This is why the ancients paired this practice with the archetype of Thoth, the god of language and wisdom. Awakening the Feng Fu point wasn't just about energy. It was about reclaiming your voice, your truth, your creative power. But this is only the beginning. As energy continues to flow, something deeper begins to happen. Some traditions say that activating this point doesn't just clear blockages, it connects you to memory. Not memory in the ordinary sense of recalling your childhood, but something far older. Esoteric legends tell of Atlantis, a civilization said to have existed before recorded history. According to these stories, Thoth himself was not originally an Egyptian deity, but a priest-king from Atlantis. After a cataclysm destroyed that world, he and his initiates traveled to Egypt, carrying fragments of their knowledge. One of those fragments was the practice of activating the Feng Fu point. It wasn't just for health or clarity. It was preparation, a way to tune initiates into what some call the Akashic records, a field of memory that contains the experiences of all humanity. If that sounds impossible, consider this. Modern science already acknowledges that our DNA carries the memory of generations. Trauma, resilience, even learned behaviors can be passed down. What if consciousness, too, leaves an imprint? What if by opening certain portals in the body, you could access layers of that collective memory? Some people who practice this technique report flashes of insight, sudden familiarity with symbols you've never studied, or dreams filled with ancient imagery. Are these hallucinations? Or are they echoes of an older memory field we're all connected to? This brings us to the most radical layer of this practice, the language of light. Once your energy flows freely, once your communication center is clear, you begin to notice something subtle. Ideas don't just come as thoughts anymore. They arrive fully formed, as if downloaded. You start sensing the intentions behind people's words, picking up on unspoken energy in a room, even knowing things without knowing how you know them. This is what many traditions describe as telepathic perception, or the language of light, a way of communicating beyond words, directly through frequency and vibration. The universe, they say, is always broadcasting. We're just not tuned in until we are. When you activate this portal, you're not just awakening energy. You're remembering how to listen to the original language of the cosmos. Now, all of this leads to a deeper question. Why was this knowledge considered forbidden? Why did mystery schools guard it so tightly? The answer lies in responsibility. When you awaken energy at this level, you're not just gaining clarity or creativity. You're gaining power, the power to shape your own reality. And that's not something to take lightly. In Egyptian myth, after death, the soul's heart was weighed against the feather of Mat, the goddess of truth. If the heart was heavy with lies and selfishness, it was devoured. If it was light, the soul moved on to eternal life. Mystery schools taught that this wasn't just about death. It was a metaphor for every initiation. Before accessing greater power, your heart had to be weighed in practice. That means this: when you awaken energy through the Feng Fu point, your deeper self will test you. Why are you seeking this power? To heal, create, uplift, or to control, dominate, and feed your ego? The energy itself knows the difference. If your intention is pure, the flow continues. If not, it stops, not as punishment, but as protection. This is the safety mechanism built into the system. You cannot fake purity of heart. Your vibration tells the truth. So what, ultimately, is the goal of this practice? It's not about worshiping Thoth or Atlantis. It's not even about mystical experiences, though those may come. The true goal is much simpler and much more profound: to become the scribe of your own destiny. Thoth was not just a recorder of events. He was the keeper of universal law. He understood that reality is shaped by consciousness, manifested through vibration, frequency, and word. By aligning yourself with that principle, you stop being a passive character in your life story. You become the writer. The energy you awaken at the Feng Fu point is like ink. The clarity that flows through your throat chakra is like the pen. The wisdom of your heart is the paper. Together, they give you the tools to write the script of your reality. That is why this knowledge was forbidden, because it hands you the terrifying freedom of responsibility. No more excuses. No more blaming others. The universe isn't happening to you, it's happening through you. And once you know that, you can never go back to believing you're powerless. So here we are. You've learned the technique. You've glimpsed the mythology. You've seen how science and spirit converge at this single point on the back of your neck. And you've heard the challenge. Awakening energy is not about magic tricks, it's about stepping into your role as a conscious creator. If you've followed this journey to the end, comment below. The Palace of Wind is open. That way, I'll know you've walked this path with me. And if this video resonated with you, share it with someone who's ready to hear it. The more of us who awaken, the stronger the collective field becomes. I've also selected another video for you right here, where we'll dive even deeper into unlocking hidden energy systems in the body. Click on it now, and let's continue this journey together. The page is blank, the ink is fresh. The universe waits for your words. The only question left is, what will you write?